Welcome to Morning Mika as we get ready for our fourth annual 3050 Summit in Abu Dhabi, which is just days away now. I wanted to go back to basics, the message, the core skills, and the reason knowing your value is vital to your professional and personal success. And also, vital to the times we are in. I'm Mika Brzezinski, here with my co-hosts Jen Psaki, Simone Sanders-Townsend, and Huma Abedin. We're going to focus now on some of the pillars of KYV, knowing your value, embracing failure, pressing reset, finding your voice, and the pitfalls of apologizing. Now, the concept of knowing your value is based on actual, actionable methods and actions that you have complete control over. Knowing your value is not about other people and what they do and their behavior. It's about you communicating effectively to get full value back out of every relationship. This is for your work life. And yet the great thing about the KYV skills is that they apply to all of your relationships, whether it's with your kids, your partner, your neighbors, your friends. It's about getting value back so you can grow in your profession, grow your relationships. And as you grow, you can plant seeds of confidence around you and help lift up as many other women as possible. So let's jump in. Let's start on embracing failure, totally owning failure, embracing it, and just like sitting in it, the setbacks that you have in life. You have to fail to win. I'm sure of it. Your biggest failures almost always are the best thing that ever happened to you. You just don't know it at the time. It was for me when I was fired and hit rock bottom. It was for me when I was demoted. It was for me when I was confronted by a therapist on the street who said I cried too much. You guys know this. Women tend to see failure and embarrassing moments as bracing and painful. Like it's the end of the world. We carry it around with us. We ruminate. We think about it all the time. We slap our heads and go, oh my God. Meanwhile, men, they assume right away it was someone else's fault. And they're able to compartmentalize and just move on, or they just forget. When you fail, you're learning. And we miss that opportunity by ruminating and going over it again and again and kicking ourselves. You're developing perspective when you fail. You're gaining knowledge. So when you do succeed, you cherish it. You grow that success. You know how to tend to it. Failure happens. It's how you move through failure with a mixture of vulnerability, confidence, and self-awareness that ultimately increases your value. Now, I've shared in this space my failures. I've gone there, the big ones: divorce, mental health struggles, getting fired, messing up everything. I've done every failure so you don't have to. And yet coming out of every single one better. So, Jen, I'm going to start with you. No cute stuff like I don't know, something light. Just dig deep. What's the failure in your life that you experienced that stung so hard, but you came out better down the road?
I mean, first of all, Mika, I fail all the time. I have failed massively publicly many, many times. You learn from that too. But I would say one of the ones that stuck with me the most is back many years ago, so 2009, it was a particularly stressful day. I was working for President Obama. I was in the press office, and I sent an email to my colleagues at the Treasury Department where I was so mad at Fox News. Now it's warranted sometimes, but that day I was so mad, I threatened to put a dead fish in their cubbyhole, and I also called Bret Baier a lunatic. Now, the thing about government emails is that often they become public through FOIA. Those emails all became public a year later, and I was mortified. And I was mortified because it was obviously unprofessional. I was thinking, what is my mother gonna say? She's gonna be like, why did you talk that way? And in the moment, one of my kind of mentors in the White House at the time, Anita Dunn, was like, just send him an email and he may never reply, but you're gonna feel better about it. And I sent him an email, and he, to his credit, replied back, invited me to lunch, We went to lunch. This was all, there was tons of coverage of this at the time and how kind of unprofessional and inappropriate it was, and that was accurate. We went to lunch. We talked about our families. I may disagree with things he's reported on or whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is, that was so massively embarrassing, I wanted to crawl into a hole. But what I learned from it was the grace that he handled it with. And it has helped me, as people who have worked with me, or maybe not even worked with me, just been insensitive about me publicly. It's helped me to show more grace. But yeah, sometimes it takes a big public embarrassment to teach you a big lesson. So that's one of my many examples.
That's a really good one. I had one on the show, and it every day I think about it. And it makes me think about my words more. And that's where failures and making mistakes makes you better. Moving on now, let's talk about pressing reset, which Jen had to do after that moment. When we have a bad experience with a person, like a fight or a really, really awkward or a terrible dressing down, you did something wrong, women often carry it around in their heads, like they write it on their forehead so everyone knows about it. We ruminate on it. We even bring it to the next conversation and continue to talk about it. Stop, don't do that, okay? Like, okay, you screwed up. It's not the end of the world, even more so. What's your moment to press reset and rise above it and move forward strong? It's important to be able to do that. Men do it all the time. They move on so fast. We joke at my events that men definitely don't remember anything, which is why they're so good at pressing the reset button. But it's actually an amazing talent. I saw Joe and our boss at the time when Morning Joe was starting, fighting with Phil Griffin. They were screaming at each other and spit was flying. And I was like, oh my God. And then they sat down. They're like, you're going to the game this weekend? They reset in real time. Meanwhile, I would have gone for months thinking about that if that had been me. Pressing reset means not over-emotionalizing events, meetings, or bad interactions, and moving the hell on. It's about knowing that you can command respect in the next moment with the very same person or group of people. I mean, on Morning Joe, we wouldn't survive without the reset button in our minds. We're always moving through tough moments, mistakes, missed opportunities, things that went too far. I've become a master of the reset. It also helps that I'm so tired, I can't remember anything. So there you go. If you guys ever make me mad, I won't remember, so don't worry about it. Simone, tell us about a time where you had to do it. You had to press the reset button.
You know, I'm thinking about when I finished working on the Sanders campaign in 2016, and I thought I was going to go and work on the Clinton campaign. I ended up getting hired, but I became a commentator on CNN, and I moved in with my mom's sorority sister in D.C. And y'all, I was being a millennial, okay, a crazy millennial. I wasn't paying any rent. I was coming in the house at like 3 a.m. through the garage, being all loud. I'm staying out for days. You know, I'm going to the studio. I'm not paying rent, okay? I'm eating up all the groceries and the food, and for months, okay? And from like September through December. And one day, my mom's sorority sister, who is like a big sister to me, she called me into the kitchen and she's like, we need to talk. This is not how your life is gonna be. You have to get it together. This is not normal. You are not living a real life. And she said, I can give you through March. And I said, I will be out in January. So I go and I move into this like basement of a house with no closet. It's really insane. It was actually very crazy. And I felt some type of way about that conversation with her, but that was the impetus to start my business. I started my own consulting business after that, because I had to make some money because I was now paying rent. And to this day, her name is Lorna. Lorna and I are like the best of friends. She's the big sister I've always wanted. But it was that very uncomfortable, terse conversation where Lorna, frankly, kicked me out of our house, that pushed me to go and do a little bit more. And to your point, Mika, I didn't hold on to it. And I really think the art of not holding on to the negative, to learning from the tough conversations, is what distinguishes the people that do well from those that don't. One of the key things. And so that was a thing for me. So shout out to Lorna for putting me out, because it was crazy that I wasn't paying any rent.
Yay, Lorna.
Okay? Yes. All right. I want to talk now about the importance of finding your voice. And I'm actually talking about two things: the sound of it, okay, the look of it, and what you're saying. Your voice is the first reveal to a problem. or to show that you command respect. You have to practice speaking in front of people, practice your pronunciation, practice how you recover from a flop, from flubbing up words, practice your tempo, how your face looks when you're talking, how your posture is, and how your eye contact goes along with that voice. See, that was tempo. What's the message that you want to send? Your voice says it all. You have to be able to tell people about yourself. Don't assume you'll just be noticed. You have to be able to put your accomplishments into words. Now, this took a long time for me to learn. I've written books about it, and it was through practice, 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 and guess what? More practice. And then you have those know your value moments where you're like, I found my voice. This is what it should sound like. Huma, tell me about a moment when you actually it clicked and you found yourself.
I came from a world where I didn't have a voice at all. When I started in politics in 1998, Hillary Clinton famously tells the story. She would have to say, I cannot hear you. I literally was so soft-spoken and then spent 25 years working for somebody who used their voice a lot, and I was always behind the camera. And I remember, in fact, I used to get so paralyzed, I would have to go to the bathroom and literally sometimes not TMI, but just throw up. I was so overcome by the idea of using my voice. And then in 2021, when my memoir came out, I had to bring it. I mean, it was the first time I was going to be on camera, and I remember sitting down for the first time with Norah O'Donnell for CBS Sunday Morning, and then the next morning doing Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show, and then going on Colbert, and then the day after talking to this very powerful woman named Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe. I mean, it was to go from 0 to 150 and realize that I had to step up and use my voice. And I think the best part about that experience that whole week was recognizing that I could do it. And that brings me forward to today, which is I'm on set with the three of you. And just before I came on, I had to do a quick hit, and I'm sitting on screen and I don't have anything in my ear. And I'm supposed to be asking a question to the woman, and the teleprompter didn't move, and it was just radio silence. And I was able to just, based on a finger someone pointed at me off camera, just ask my question. Couldn't hear anything back. And here I am, 20 minutes later, instead of in the bathroom shaking and thinking I can't do it, finding myself and maybe using some lessons that we should maybe learn more from men, which is compartmentalizing, doing a reset, letting it go, and succeeding. So I feel
You know
pretty
what?
good.
I had no idea. So you did a great job. That's amazing. And that's confidence building as you use your voice. Let's talk about, finally, the pitfalls of apologizing. This is an ongoing issue where women just use the word I'm sorry, like as a crutch. They say it too much. We say it too much. I used to make this mistake all the time. I still do. Early on in my career, I learned my salary situation wasn't on par with male peers. I made so many attempts to fix it, but I always apologized for asking. It was finally when I stopped apologizing and actually stated what the deal was going to be that I actually was able to fix the situation. But apologizing when they should be apologizing to me. Think about that, guys. This is what we do. We often apologize our way into conversations, apologize our way into negotiations. Like that's going to somehow make them like us more? I don't get it. Because we're not there to be liked in a negotiation. You're there to negotiate, not be liked. You're not making friends here. Okay, what you're doing is commanding respect. And the minute you say you're sorry, you have literally thrown away respect at the beginning of the conversation. So I think in these negotiations, sometimes when we back in with a self-deprecating and ultimately self-defeating way, it ultimately ruins the negotiation. It's time to stop that. Anybody here, Jen, ever found yourself needless? I can hear you say, I'm sorry. I definitely think you're
Mika,
you do this.
I spent it doing 10 years. I still break myself with this habit sometimes. But I would say, and you know, Simone and Huma and I in different ways grew up in Democratic politics, still a male-dominated industry, still today. It's improved a lot. But I think as a woman, too, you often think, how can I contribute? I can contribute by being somebody who's competent and organized, and I'm not ruffling any feathers, right? And you disappear into the background sometimes, which I think is hard to imagine any of us doing. But and for me, I would often go into my boss's office, whether it was a chief of staff in the White House or even a president, and say, I'm so sorry for bothering you, or I'm so sorry to ask this. And typically it was something that was necessary for me to effectively do my job, like being in a meeting, having information. And I've tried to switch myself over the course of time, but it took me some time and it took practice, as you said, to say something more like, do you have a moment, right? Which is not apologizing. It is respectful of their time, but it is still sending a message, I need something from you in order to more effectively do my job. But yes, it took me many years to learn that. I will also say, just listening to Huma, it's so funny because I remember, because I worked for a member of Congress in New York, seeing Huma walking around with Senator Clinton at events and thinking, wow, she is so glamorous and also just has it so together.
Same.
And she was like this beacon of just organized togetherness, and thinking, I'm never going to be as glamorous as her. Still to this day, I never will be. But I had so much admiration for you, and it's so interesting because that's not what I'm hearing you say you were experiencing. And I think that's it's such an important part of like knowing people's history and what's going on in their minds too. But yes, I apologize for 15 years, Mika.
Okay, stop apologizing. And I love Huma. And if you ask Hillary Clinton, she'll say, Huma was a mess at the White House.
Yeah.
She was a mess. So ask Hillary. She does look glamorous, Huma, but you were real just like all of us.
And meanwhile, all of us at the State Department would look at Psaki when she walked around like she was a beacon of all brilliance and perfection. So
kind of fire, I have to say. All right, so I have more of these. Let's do this again. I want to close with a message on mentorship, which is going to be something we're talking a lot about at the 3050 Summit. Aside from working on ourselves, it's important that we look for openings for others. Important to help women in real and tangible ways. Not a pat on the head, but with money, support, and time, real time. Show women their value. Take mentoring to the next level and actually sponsor someone. Jen Psaki, Simone Sanders Townsend, and Huma Abedin, thank you all so much. Remember, failure is the backdrop to your next greatest success. Learn to press reset quickly and a lot. Work on your voice. Mine's fabulous. And don't self-deprecate and apologize your way into conversations. That's self-defeating. That's self-sabotage, ladies. For more details on our upcoming 3050 Summit, head over to knowyourvalue.com and Forbes.com. And that does it for now. For Morning Mika, leaving you with more Know Your Value advice from some of the great women at our 3050 Summit. We'll see you soon on YouTube and Peacock.
No matter what age or stage you're at, we apologize too much, we self-deprecate too much, we overcompensate too much, and we don't advocate enough for ourselves. Every day, you need to do better in communicating effectively. Every day, you need to do something different. You need to push the envelope further. You need to figure out what works. And guess what? You need to fail. You need to go out there and present something. You need to go out there and go for something, and you have to go through the process of not getting it and not taking that personally and going and moving on.
This is just like really helpful business advice in negotiating. Don't fill silence.
Yes,
like
I was
as
gonna say
women,
that.
Don't
we
fill
always
silence.
like we always talk, and like I used to do this and get uncomfortable and like just say more.
Absolutely.
In negotiations, in meetings, stop.
Stop.
Don't fill the silence. And if you make someone uncomfortable, let them be super uncomfortable.
Just accept the fact you have to be better prepared than anybody, no matter what your situation is. That just goes with the territory still. Practice communicating. I mean, communication is a skill like any other. You have to work on that.
Practice on your phone. Take a
Practice on your
video.
phone, practice in front of a trusted friend, practice in front of your pet. I mean, just whatever it takes.
Don't let anything define you except how you feel about who you are. And that comes down to what? Knowing your value.